Hey everyone, this is Onemanzerg, and I want to give you a build order today, and it's a Protoss build order. How crazy. So, what we're doing is we're looking at Axlav's play right now, and Axlav is the blue Protoss in the upper right, and he's playing against QXC. So these are two very high-level players, and I just want to note a couple things that this is a two-gate robo build order, and so that's a kind of a quick tech, if you will, for Protoss. There's a few different things. There's a two-gate robo. There's a 4-gate, there's a Void Ray Rush, there's the what's referred to as like a Korean 4-gate, which is where you build your gateway, and then you build your cybernetics core, and then later you build 3 more gateways, and then you build pylons all around your opponent's base, and then you warp in troops in the middle of their base. And since you have 4 gateways warping in troops, you just warp in so much crap that they can't deal with it, and it's right where they are because that's what the warp gates allow for. So, yeah, while I was talking, a lot of stuff happened right there. So let's go back to it. Pretty standard. You're going to build your pylon on 9, and then after your pylon goes down on 9, it's just the most standard of Protoss openings. You're going to get that gateway right around on 12, and then continue to do what you do. And then he's just doing some scouting here. He gets his assimilator on 14. So pylon on 9, gateway on 12, assimilator on 14. And you can fluctuate these a little bit. Depending on your play and what exactly you're going for, there's a lot of breathing room and a lot of build orders. And then another pylon on 15 just to make sure he's not getting supply locked. Some things that CV Rush always says that I think are really good for newer players are never stop building workers, so probes, drones, SCVs, whatever, because when you saturate one base and you keep building them, then you can move them on to your expansion. Okay, and then here's the cybernetics core on 17. So after you get your cybernetics core is when you're going to get your next gateway and then your robo bay. And depending on how the game's going, there's a little bit more breathing room. So if you've scouted your opponent, when we see Axlav over here has scouted his opponent somewhat, if you scout your opponent and see, oh, they're applying a lot of early pressure, then you're going to need to get that other gateway up quicker, and you're going to need to get troops out quicker. If they're not applying the early pressure, you don't do that. You can go and you can tech quicker. Here he is getting another pylon on 22. Usually, when you have 1 or 2 production facilities, getting your pylon or overlord or whatever supply depot about 4 or 5 beforehand is pretty good in terms of timing. And then we're going to see, so Axlav has slowed this down a little bit, I think because he's kind of busy scouting and seeing what his opponent has. He sees that, okay, he's got 2 barracks. So he's going to want to drop that next gateway, and there it goes down. So his next gateway is on 27. You can definitely do it earlier than that. And one thing he does want to do is he wants to get this SCV out of the picture before he drops his robo bay. At this point in the game, I'll pause it real quick. At this point in the game, you have a lot of options as a Protoss player. You open with your gateway on your pylon on 9, your gateway on 12, usually an assimilator right after that. If you're playing against Protoss, if they don't have the assimilator and they have double gateway, they're probably going to rush you with some zealots. So, that's something to look out for. If they have their cybernetics core after their gateway and an assimilator, then, they're probably going to go with some kind of tech, be it stalkers or a zealot sentry or 2-gate robo. So it doesn't tell you much anything if they at that point in the game. But what will tell you something now is when they get this second gateway, are they going to be going for Void Rays and Stargate type stuff or not? And then when they get the second assimilator, that's really telling. So QXC sees, he's got that second assimilator going down, so he's probably going to go with some tech. It's pretty safe to assume at this point that he's going with a 2-gate robo. Just had a little glitch right there. So let's see, and there right around on 32 he's dropping that robo. And then he's got some sentries and some stalkers coming out. And as always, mix your troops to what your opponent is getting. So I have this running at 2 times in case you guys are wondering why it's blurring by. And then he's getting those warp gates. And this is something you can or can't do. I guess for higher level players, I'd recommend getting warp gates. And for lower level players, it's not as big of a deal. And then you can see, here's a little bit of flexibility you need. He's going to get harassed by these Reapers, and QXC always does such a great job of his Reaper harassment. He's kind of known for that. And these Stalkers are pretty good at dealing with the Reapers, but they are quick and they have the Nitro packs, you can tell, so they will get away. And then he gets that Robo Bay up, And you see one thing he does is he gets this observer. over to his opponent's base, because here's another point in the build where you have some flexibility. You've got your 2 gates out, you've got your robo bay out, so what are you going to do after this? Are you going to build immortals? Well, if he has some armor, like some marauders, then you're going to want immortals. If he has tanks, then you might want immortals. If he has Thors, you might want to get immortals too. But if he has like Hellions and Marines, well, Colossus is a better counter for that. And if he has a good mix of Marauders and Marines, but not too Marauder heavy, then you're going to want to try and get that Robotics Bay and then get some Colossus. But he sees there's a good amount of Marauders, so he's going to get an Immortal out. And then he's going to use that kind of composition for his army. And that's a smart move. So here he's used the flexibility in the build to say, okay, now that I've seen Marauders, I'm going to get Immortals. Because Immortals save 100 gas, so it's 250, 100 versus 300, 200 for the Colossus, over, the Colossus. So it's 100 gas savings, and that's if you look at the income, you get about 200 gas a minute mining. So you can get 1 Colossus a minute or 2 Immortals a minute, essentially, at this point in time. And then if you throw in some Stalkers into your mix and some Sentries, then you're even more gas constrained. And so we can see he threw down this expansion around 50. It really doesn't matter the exact timing. This isn't the build order, but I want to point this out. Axlab has his observer, right? And it showed him, you can't tell now, but it showed him that QXC was moving out with these troops. And you see this a lot, moving out with SCVs. So the SCVs are a support unit that give a lot of tanking to the army. And then Axlab sees that, so he brings out he brings these probes over here, but then pretty sure he's going to bring probes into the battle too right now. Yeah, so he brings his probes into the fight so that kind of this amount of SCVs tanking matches this amount. And then he's just going to micro those Immortals out, because once their hardened shields do break down, which happens pretty quickly with Marines in the fight, they can get taken out quickly. So you want to watch that. And some nice force field action going on right there. And then those Immortals are hampered because they have a range of 5, and the Sentries have a range of 5, and the Stalkers have a range of 6. So if they get behind them, they can get beat up by Marauders who have a range of 6. So a little thing to watch out for. So yeah, so he's in a little bit of trouble. Why? Because he expanded, in that the minerals he spent on this he could have spent on troops. If he had, say, 6 Zealots, which is the same equivalent, then he easily could have dealt with this amount of troops. But he's still doing okay, and he's able to bring in some reinforcements from the back and use these front troops to deal with this. So he's got that Robo Bay chucking out the Immortals, and then his opponent isn't able to tech switch very much right now, because with 3 barracks he's really bought in. So Axlab knows he can stick with that general build of Sentries, Stalkers, and Immortals to fend off the Marauders and the Marine composition army. And then I'll just fast forward this game a lot right now. And so he still has this one, using his chronos on those Immortals, because they do take a while to build. It says 55 seconds, so almost a minute to build. And then you can see he does have a good composition to beat these Marines, with the Sentries with that Guardian shield, and then the Immortals with their hardened shield and their 50 damage versus armored units. And then just throws in some micro. So the build works well, but you have to know the flexibility in the build to get it to work. So let's just fast forward through it again real quick as a recap. You're going to get that pylon on 9, and then after you get that pylon on 9, you're going to get a gateway at around 12, and then you're going to get your assimilator on 14, and then after that another pylon. And depending on how the game's going, you're going to drop your tech sooner or later. So if you're going to get harassed, here's a cybernetics one 18. If you're going to get harassed, you're going to have to get more troops, drop a gateway sooner. If you're not, you can get the robo facility earlier. And then just get that robo facility up. When you get it up, if you're being attacked, you might want to get a troop out of it, like an Immortal right away. If not, get a observer out of it, and then have that observer scout the opponent's base to tell you what composition you should be getting based on theirs. So you saw that second gateway at the mid-20s, assimilator around 30, and then you really need that gas, because this build is very gas intensive, because the cheapest unit you're going to get is an Immortal, that's 100 gas, and then you still have your Stalker 50 gas and your Sentry 100 gas that you might want to add into your army composition. So it is very gas intense, but you can balance that out by getting more Zealots if you want, but that is, as always, deemed by what your opponent's building. Alright guys, so recap: pylon on 9, gateway on 12, assimilator on 14, cybernetics core around 18. You can get your second assimilator earlier too, but after that you're just going to get your gateway and your assimilator, gateway and assimilator, and then your robotics facility. And that way you can support most of this on one base, but you will need to expand if you're going to support more than one robo and 2 gateways off of one base. I hope that works for you Protoss players out there. Tell us if you want another build order or you want more details on things like this. Thanks for listening. Go to uen.com for tips, tricks, build orders, all that good stuff, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks.